She said
She's like, imagine being in
Okay.
What math class are you in?
Did everyone grab a paper copy or have an electronic copy ready? Alright. So like you all saw, you said you know, so I'm actually also recording from my phone so you can so hopefully it will work. And I'll get that posted to YouTube probably over this weekend. Okay. So today we're talking about skin, otherwise known as the integumentary system.
No way.
Alright. So our focus questions. What are the functions of the integumentary system? What are the layers of skin and accessory organs? How does skin help regulate body temperature? What factors affect skin color? And how does skin heal? So today we're going to talk about these three. Our next lecture will be about the last. Okay. So functions. There's 5 main functions. Protection, body temperature regulation, vitamin D production and sensory perception, and then secretion. And we'll go into each of those. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this is actually a picture of the epidermis with a little bit of the dermis on the bottom. So this is the epidermis all the way through here, and then this is like the dermis.
When you say highlight or bold the correct answer,
So like of the answer options, like you can either highlight it or you can bold it, like bold the correct answer.
for this one, you just put this. So
Oh, well, like this one is, oh, I guess that's, sorry. So this is just a general overview of, it's like a drawing of a skin, like cross section. So protection, right, protects from cold, protects from heat, to make sure that you actually have the right temperature inside. It also prevents mechanical impact and like protects tissue, like your more sensitive tissue that's inside, from things like chemical and physical damage. And you'll learn about all of what these are, like all these structures down here are called. And then, yeah, the skin is super helpful with like destroying microorganisms that aren't supposed to be on your body or in your body. And then it also helps with dehydration. So making sure that you have the water that you need to be able to function, because water is one of the most critical things for human body to function and actually do the chemical reactions that need to occur. Okay. So protection, right? It's literally a physical barrier, right? It's covering all of us. Bacteria is also always on the skin, so we have our own microbiomes, both inside and outside. So there is always bacteria on your skin. And most of the bacteria are actually really helpful. They're good bacteria for us. And then it protects us from UV radiation. And we'll go into a specific vitamin that's produced because of UV radiation. And it protects us from getting dehydrated.
Help block UV radiation.
Yes. Yeah, so it helps, skin helps block UV radiation. It protects us against it. Yeah.
For the last one, for B, it says it also makes sure that you do not get too dehydrated, right?
Okay. So our next function is body temperature regulation. So this is what happens when either you get too cold or you get too hot. And it actually increases or decreases the blood flow depending on what situation is happening to the surface. So in order for you to cool down, it increases blood flow to the surface, or like towards the skin, or superficially. And then in order to stay warmer, you actually send the blood back to your core, back to like away from your skin. And so this image here is just showing that in that like heat is lost because of radiation from your body, from your skin. There's there is a certain percentage of heat that's always lost. But as if you're too warm, right, these arterioles, their arteries, they become more dilated, they become bigger, and therefore has a bigger surface area reaching your skin so that the heat can be released. The opposite happens when you're too cold. And so this is controlled also by nerve impulses. Your nerves are super important to send signals to your body. Okay. So this is just a second slide about body temperature regulation. So you have both warm and cold thermoreceptors. Thermo meaning temperature. Receptors are structures within the body that receive inputs. So both of these end up sending messages to the hypothalamus, which is actually a part of your brain. And we'll go into more of its functions, but this is one of them. And so when you're warm, you actually have blood vessel dilation, and you can even start sweating if you're running or in a very hot environment, right? Because your body's trying to cool itself down.
In this class.
Well, at least the AC is on. Alright, so when you're cold, it's the opposite. So blood vessel constriction, which means that your blood is being pulled back in so that you're warming your core and none of your vital organs are going to be damaged. And shivering. Shivering, have you all been cold and shivered before?
Yeah.
Involuntarily? So, the reason why you shiver is actually your muscles are releasing energy. They're releasing heat, which is why after you shiver, you feel slightly less cold. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, so super cool.
I just thought it was my body not working as
No, it's actually a response in order to have your body still.
So if I'm not shivering, that's an issue.
Yes. If you're not shivering when you're super cold, that's not.
So you being shirtless in the snow and I wasn't shivering, is that bad?
Yeah, because that means that you're in a colder environment, and then you're not your body's become desensitized to that cold, and so you can't tell
I was sweating.
Okay, yeah, so that does happen, but you have to be really careful because you can sometimes have cold sweats, and that's when your body is not functioning. So just be careful.
Oh no, I was loving it. I was in the snow and shit.
Yeah, just don't stay out there too long. Shirtless? Shirtless.
I was hot.
That's very cool.
Shoes out.
No. Get that checked out. Just say yeah. Okay. If you stay out, because it's a possibility to get hypothermia.
Yeah,
Right? Because if you don't have enough covering on your body to stay at your normal internal temperature, right? You can go into hypothermia, you can go into hyperthermia, where you get overheating, too hot. But in that case, you potentially could end up getting
You can die.
hypothermia. If it's super drastic, yeah, you can end up dying. So here it's just showing nerves. So those are your thermoreceptors. Those are what are in your skin. This is the neuron pathway. Usually neurons are shown within boxes to demonstrate that it's signals are being sent. And then these are your neurons sending it to your central brain, meaning your hypothalamus, because it is literally in the center of your brain.
Great.
Okay. So our vitamin D production. This actually only occurs when you get UV radiation on your skin. So this is one of the vitamins that we cannot produce, that we actually have to, or sorry, that we can't consume to, or never mind, that's not true.
We can't take vitamins.
You can take vitamins. Yeah, there's like you can have like multivitamins. You can have vitamin A, vitamin B,
They have vitamin D.
D. Yeah, they're little gels. Usually
They work?
they do. Yeah. So people who don't get enough sunlight,
Right.
or like aren't in the sun enough, or have like super sensitive skin, will actually take vitamin D supplements
Oh, really?
in order to be able to have all of these functions like work. And so, yeah, so vitamin D is like insanely necessary for calcium absorption for your bones.
So let's say if I don't get vitamin D, what will happen to my body?
Your bones will start to like not be as strong as they should be because you don't absorb.
Brittle bones.
Can I affect my growth? Because I
Imagine having brittle bones can be.
Growth, like you mean height?
Yeah.
I don't know if it necessarily directly affects height, but like little kids grow the most during summer, right?
It just straightens the bone.
Yeah, it really just like helps you absorb the calcium that you need to repair your bones. in order to-
I will not during the summer. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, it wasn't like
but like, it depends on your genetics more for height, I think.
I'm just playing with you.
Yeah.
There's calcium in what?
Sorry, what'd you say? Yeah, for calcium, so that your bone helps. Yeah. So this image is just showing you all of the like uses for vitamin D. It's super important, as you can see. Like there's a lot of different organs there, including the liver, the intestines, bones, kidneys, and even the parathyroid. And so, yeah, so getting out in the sun and getting a little bit of radiation is good. Too much, right, can cause sunburn, or you, like at least for me, like I get sunburned really easily because my skin is very fair. Yeah, and so I have to put on some sunscreen to make sure that I'm not getting burned. Yeah.
Do you like, what is the reason why some people are like super cold and some people are hot? Like me, I'm warm, but she's like cold.
Oh, you mean like our,
Yeah, like I am, my palm.
yeah, so that, yeah, so a lot of it has to do with how, like differences in blood circulation. So the way that, like my hands are always cold, like always. And so what that means is that I have poor circulation into my hands. If you're warm, that means you have actually really good circulation. And so,
Should you be taking something?
not necessarily, because I can move my hands and like it'll.
So if you lose like feeling in your hands, and
That's when it's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I can still feel everything. I can feel pressure, heat.
you can pick up something.
Yeah.
How do you get the circulation in your hand?
How do you get poor circulation?
Good.
Good circulation?
Like a worm or whatever.
I think a lot of it has to do with your genetics. So everyone's like circulation pathways are slightly different. And so like mine would just happen to be slightly less good or like slightly less. So like mine just happened to be slightly less effective at keeping heat. It's also like your internal temperatures are going to be slightly different, and then like the average right is 96.7 or something like that, I think. And so you have like slightly different internal temperatures that can affect the way that you either like release heat or keep it in. And so there's a lot of like tiny differences that make like physical manifestations. Yeah, so usually when we're talking about vitamin D deficiencies, it's people in like northern climates that get like very little sun, or like a lot less sun than say like here in California or even in the equator. And it can be both like up north or in the south, like closer to the South Pole. Right. So as we know, right, our skin helps us feel things. So sensory perception is super important so that we know what we're actually picking up, what we're feeling. And there are receptors for touch, pain, pressure, temperature, and all of these receptors actually vary in the number that is in your skin as well as the concentration. So like how much, how many are in a certain area. And so that varies from person to person, which is why some people can feel more pain in a certain area than other people.
Pain tolerant?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
What if someone, I know there's a disease where like one person doesn't feel anything?
So they don't have any receptors.
Imagine not having pain.
So in order for you not to feel any pain, like you actually have to have a lack of pain receptors. And so that's probably what the condition that individual has.
So it's like cramps. Like some women get like a lot of pain, some people don't because of their sensory.
Cramps have to do with your...
Yeah, so right, like when you have your period, right, you get like intense. Some people get really intense uterine cramps. Other people just get like less. So it depends on how your body processes that. It's not necessarily directly connected to skin itself, but it definitely is like your pain receptors within your body because you do have some of those. And so when those are like receptors are activated, hey y'all, please stop having side conversation. So when your pain receptors are activated, then yeah, you're gonna feel it. And some people have higher pain tolerances, some people have lower pain tolerances. It just depends on like how your body processes that pain, as well as like how much these are stimulated. And each type of receptor also has a threshold, and we'll talk about that in neurons and signaling and why that's important. Okay. Any other questions about sensory? So our last one is perspiration, otherwise known as sweat. And pretty much it's made up of two things, water and salt.
Very salty.
Yes. Yeah.
It burns my eyes.
Consume mass amounts of sodium.
What's up? What did you say?
Because you consume mass amounts of sodium.
And like sometimes your sweat can be saltier because you have a lot of like excess
Well, today is actually not cooked.
sodium. So yeah, so the reason why you have water as what's actually released from your body when we're like evolved to do that. But two, water actually is a really good molecule to hold heat, which means that when you sweat, right, it evaporates off of you, right? The like hottest molecules will just like go away, and that's how you cool down. And so those molecules are actually taking the heat away from your body.
So sweat is molecules in that sense?
Yeah. Yeah, so sweat is made of water and salt molecules.
You learn something every day.
It tastes like salt.
Which is why it's actually really a good thing to have it.
So if you have sweat, that means you're not producing...
So you don't have sweat glands. Well, I mean, in certain respects, sure, but in other ones, it's like, if you don't sweat, then you don't know that you're too hot, or your body doesn't have a mechanism to cool down, right? And dogs pant, right? So that's a different way of like reacting to heat.
So they're basically in the middle.
Yeah, so it depends on the organism, but we end up sweating. Yeah.
Is it true that people say that like sweat can be sweet?
Sweat can be sweet.
I saw it on the show.
Wait, sweat
What
is
I'm like tasting my own sweat.
What show?
I thought it was like
I'm just
I don't
curious.
even want to say it. It was from Teen Titans. It was like, oh yeah, your sweat can be sweet. I was like, for sure.
I don't know if they're like talking about. I don't know if they're actually talking about like the taste of sweat. They might just be talking about like usually like when you work out, right, endorphins are really nice because they help your brain feel better, they help clear things, like clear your thoughts and process things, right? So maybe in that sense it's like sweat is sweet in that sense where it's like actually helping you process things. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the actual taste of sweat. I know it is salty because it's made. That's like one of the two constituents, but I don't know about the other ones. If it actually tastes sweet. Okay. So this picture is just showing you again a cross section of skin. So you have your epidermis that's here on the top layer. You have your dermis, and then you have your subcutaneous layer. And so those words on the left side are all of the like structures within skin. And so there's actually a lot of things that we'll learn about.
Wait, I just have a question.
Yeah.
So let's say I go to the doctor's and I get a needle injected in me. The farthest it's gonna go is to the dermis, right? Or it's gonna go further into the
It should never go.
Is your vein?
Is your subcutaneous layer or your bone or your muscles?
So it'll be.
Well, actually, sorry, no, that's not. Sometimes shots do go into your muscles. That's why they can be sore.
Okay.
So it does go through. So I was thinking of tattoos. Tattoos don't go past your muscle layer.
Your muscle. Okay.
Yeah, but your like shots actually go through. Some of them go through your muscles. Yeah, they should never hit your bone.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So your tattoos actually stay right here. And there are certain cells that keep the pigment. Okay.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, we'll go through each one. Alright. So structure is your epidermis. Alright, that's the top layer. That's a dark pink magenta color. It's the most superficial layer. Cells are actually constantly dividing, which is why like you have dead skin that's good to like wash off because your cells are continuing to regenerate. And it actually it regenerates here. So the newest cells are along this line, and then your oldest cells are actually the ones that are on the top of, like, on the most superficial layer. Skin also contains melanocytes, so the epidermis. Melanocytes are the cells that produce pigment. So that's part of how, like, there's different skin tones. So the like pigment is called melanin. This is also epidermis. There's two main functions. So one is waterproofing. So like when you go swimming or something, right? Like you don't lose all of your water, but like you can sometimes like have water just like drip off your body, right? That's why like this is really good. And then keratin is another protective like compound. Keratin actually makes up your skin or sorry, not your skin, but your nails and your hair. So that is the protein that makes up those. Yeah.
So whenever we swim, like the fingertips, like does it absorb?
Like when you get like pretty fingertips.
No, like
grandma.
No, like no, if you like stay in the water for too long.
Yeah, it gets all wrinkly.
Yeah, does it?
Yeah, so that's why, like, part of that is because your body does, like, allow some water to, like, leave your body, which is why you get kind of wrinkly. And then, like, once you, like, get out of the water and drink more water, right, your fingers are fine. And so it allows for a little bit of that water to leave, so that it's not pulling on your skin too much. So that's what were you saying about keratin?
Oh no, so
Oh, okay.
Wrinkly fingers. Grandma
So our second layer, right, is the dermis. It's right below the epidermis. It's also your thickest layer. And so this contains things like protrusions, otherwise known as dermal papillae, that create fingertips. So your fingerprints are actually physically a part of your body. And that is also, what?
Your
Fingerprints, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're also fully developed, I think, by the end of trimester 2, when you're in your mom's uterus.
But your
Yeah, so this light pink is what the dermis, like from this dark down is your dermis.
How do you, I don't know if that's
The actual thickness.
Yeah.
I do not. I can look it up.
Is it like half an inch?
Oh no, it's gotta be smaller than that. Yeah, a lot of this is like microscopic. And I will actually, we have in like slides that you'll be able to see just how small it is. But I can look up like thickness actually.
Just to have like an idea. It looks big like in the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be like millimeter or smaller. Like maybe centimeter. Maybe. I'll double check, but I think it's very thin. If we use dissections, you'll see just how thin it is. So you'll have to peel skin away. Okay. So the other thing that this contains is capillaries. Capillaries help with like blood circulation. So these are the smallest form of blood vessels. You have your sudoriferous, i.e. sweat, and your sebaceous glands, which are your oil glands. So oil actually helps you pick up like objects. And then of course you have your receptors, whether that's pain, touch, or temperature. And then you also have hair follicles.
Excuse me. Bless you. I know.
So these are all structures within the So our last layer is our hypodermis, otherwise known as the subcutaneous layer. And technically it's not skin, it's just like an insulator and a cushion.
Wait, this is what?
Our hypodermis. Yeah. It's also called the subcutaneous layer because it's under your skin. Like sub means under, cute, like CUT means skin. So this also contains blood vessels and nerves. So this is where, like this is a layer where those signals from your receptors actually get sent to your brain. But it's mostly made up of fatty tissue, so it insulates you to make sure that you don't get too cold, and it cushions your skin. So that like when you press your arm, it doesn't break. It's not brittle. And so that, like, the lightest pink layer, that's your hypodermis.
So that's the like visually that's what you can like grab, right?
Well, so when you grab your arm, right, you're actually grabbing some muscle and your skin, like all three layers of your skin.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Because you can't technically like separate it right now, right? But say if you were to like make a cross section, you'd be able to see
all the three layers.
The three layers.
Can I open my skin?
No, because blood would go everywhere, and that would not be good. Alright, but these are like fat cells. And having fat is actually really good so that your skin can actually stretch and grow with you. And that way you're actually like protecting it. So you also have things that are accessory organs. So things like hair follicles, erector pili muscles are actually the muscles that are connected to your hairs on your arms. Like if you ever like got goosebumps, I don't know if you call them that, but like I call them that. That's actually your erector pili muscles contracting because they're actually moving your hairs up and creating a warm air layer.
So it's technically a muscle contractor.
Yeah, so there are actually real muscles that are connected to each and every single one of your hairs. They're super technical. You also have your sebaceous glands, which again are your oil-producing glands, your nails, and then your sudoriferous glands are your sweat glands. Okay. Any questions about skin so far? No? Good. We're gonna play.
This is it cool if I share with somebody because it's about to die. And I don't want to stand here.
Yeah, you can use your phone if you want. That's easier instead of a laptop.
I'm very sweaty.
I'll get it set up. Let me turn this on. You should be able to.
Wait, does he have to take a picture of it?
Well, the guy.
Insulates and cushions. It's insulates and then cushions. And then also insulates. Blood vessels. George wants to tell me something. What do you want to tell me? You said you wanted to tell me something.
Yeah, turn on the garden.
7-9.
Are you gonna collect the hard copies?
Take pictures of each page and
7-9. 4 7 so.
Because when you said guided notes, I thought like writing it down.
Oh.
KJ.
Alright, hold on, I gotta turn off the screen.
Wait, it's okay. Where's
No.
my boots?
That will get back.
What was it? You want to say?
It's already submitted.
It hasn't been birthday.
For today?
There you go, mira.
I see what you mean.
You like do it by yourself?
Wait, you're so dirty.
Huh?
What's up, bro? Are you full soccer? Oh, I was about to say.
Actually, you had something.
What about you?